Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. Every watch you see here is for sale. Check the description for references and SKUs, and reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions. Okay, we're getting started with a model variant launched in 2013 from Omega. This is the Seamaster Aqua Terra Day and Date, a complication made famous by a brand I'm not allowed to discuss or feature here. The Day and Date now combined with 150-meter water resistance, effectively amagnetic, anti-magnetic qualities thanks to an anti-magnetic escapement, balance staff, and silicone hairspring. We have a twin-barrel automatic movement unique to this model, the 8602, 60 hours of power reserve, tri-level coaxial escapement. We've got a full balance bridge and a free-sprung balance for shock resistance. We've got a watch that has a quick set for the day and the date plus hacking seconds, a blue teak deck that is striated, tapestry-like, blue metallic dial, and the watch has no shortage of luminescence. This is the all-arounder in the Seamaster catalog, a dress watch that's also sporty, an elegant watch that is also durable. 41.5 millimeters, the pre-2017 generation of the watch, and you can see on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, wears really nicely. If you're looking for a fantastic watch to mark a milestone, a gift to give for a graduation, or just one watch to last you the rest of your life, this is an outstanding candidate. Now, let's say you want to go a little bit more hardcore with your aquatic sports watch. Well, now, a no-holds-barred dive watch. And guys, attention on deck, because this is real tritium patina. A lot of folks don't realize that Panerai continued to use the tritium dials on its submersible divers long after discontinuing the use of the radioactive luminant on its regular watches. So this is a PAM 243. It was the first Luminor 1950 submersible. So Luminor 1950 submersible PAM 243. In the traditional watches like the 64 and the 87, it's a 44 millimeter steel case. It's got the chunkiest and most satisfying bezel click you will ever encounter. And note that the bezel tritium is symmetrical in its patina, matching the dial. And the dial, just to be clear, it is tritium, and you can see that it will begin to fade very, 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 very quickly. That dial base is original tritium. The hands are luminova. Just to be absolutely clear, remember tritium has a half-life of about 12.4 years, and this watch is a 2006, that's the year it came out. I believe the model was made from 06 to 11. Inside OP3, it's a 7750 movement without the chronograph components, automatic 42-hour power reserve, but most critically COSC chronometer certified with hacking seconds and a quick set date, 1,000 meters water resistant with helium escape valve, caoutchouc strap, and as you can see, it has the little screw-fixed lug bars, so you don't have to worry about spring bars here. This is old school. If you're Paneristi or a Paneristo, you will find that this is the kind of watch that led you to fall in love with the brand. Uncompromised, unrepentant, a tool watch through and through, and because of the modern Luminova hands, still usable as a diver. It has the famed device protecting the crown, a locking lever designed to lock and unlock the 1,000 meter crown instantaneously. Now I can set, I can wind, I can do all that, close the crown guard, and remember, it gives you more protection than a standard shouldered crown guard, so lots to love right here. If you want to stick with everyday durable steel, but you want something a little bit more refined, then Berlin's Felipe Pikullik has his gorgeous HTH Homage to Harrison. Now, I don't necessarily think there's a lot about this watch that reminds me of Harrison's marine chronometers, but it is beautiful. Felipe Pikullik, born in Berlin, 30 years old this year, trained in Glashütte. Despite the name, he is German through and through, and he's one of the few watchmakers actually practicing in Berlin. There are a lot of design houses in Berlin, but actual watchmakers, he's sort of on the vanguard of that. Now, this movement, of course, based on a 6498, but you can see that all the parts have been elaborately decorated with a combination of black rhodium, gold gilding. This is a 2021 launch. He only started making watches under his own name in 2017. Number 22 of 50 with gorgeous engraving on the balance cock, but not stopping there, with wonderful raised and relieved scrolling across the bridges. We have double solarization on the ratchet wheel and solarization on the crown wheel. Polished screw heads. You can see that the beveling on the edge of the bridges is mirrored, rounded, and gorgeous. We do have interior angles. About a 50 50-hour power reserve and a nice slow-beating giant pocket watch-sized balance. We've got alpha hands. We've got a black rhodium dial. We've got a raised grill, a little bit like Sartori Billard, and a watch at 41 millimeters with distinctive stepped lugs that is wonderfully flat, broad, and elegant. So in spite of being on the large side for a dress watch, it's very graceful, and it works well as an everyday timepiece that will really catch the attention of connoisseurs. This will start conversations about independent watchmaking and cool below-the-radar constructors like Pikullik, who, frankly, will not be below the radar for long. His talent is immense. Jumping to something equally German, we have Stefan Kudoke. For a long time, he made, one might say, Rococo engraved and skeletonized watches with naturally inspired imagery, pandas, octopi, things that were always polarizing as much as they were impressive. But in 2019, he launched the Kudoke 1 and the Kudoke 2 and suddenly became a mainstream hit. This is the Kudoke 2, as we have a engraved and white and yellow gold plated day-night indicator at the top. We have blued hands, including the Infinity Mobius strip. You can see it again around the fixing screw on the balance cock on the reverse side. The watch in steel is 39 millimeters in diameter, so the size is perfect, much smaller than previous Kudoke watches. We have a lovely and lush mother-of-pearl dial base, and then we have large, beautifully finished tracks, the Kudoke logo, and the frame for the day-night indicator. You can see the day-night indicator moves as I adjust the hands right there. And then on the reverse side, we have what was originally the 7750's core without the chrono and without the automatic system. That became Richard Hobring's A11, and Stefan Kudoke adapted that to create the movement you see right here. Now, this is what's known as the combination spec. You could get the scrolling on the bridge, you could get the scrolling on the balance cock, or you could get both. And this is the maximum option version of the movement. About a 48-hour power reserve. It's got a chronometer-grade balance and hairspring. You can see the solarization on the ratchet wheel, the beveling and satination on the click, an array of polished as well as blued springs or screws, pardon me. And although you can't see it terribly well on my camera, we have a lovely bevel where bevels are present. At 39 millimeters, the size is outstanding and the fit is superb. Easy to wear, good looking, and comfortable. This is an all-arounder from an independent maestro whose talent is finally being recognized. Sometimes for success, you just have to pare back a little bit, and that worked for Stefan Kudoke. Now, also German, we've got a lot of them today. So 2023 50-piece limited edition from Moritz Grossmann of Glashütte. And this is a company that I feel like is a more soulful Lange with better detailing than its better-known neighbor. So this watch, of course, the Benu Heritage Salmon dial, 41 millimeters in steel. It's only 11.8 millimeters thick, about 50.5 lug to lug. And then we have a salmon dial with a power reserve indicator at center. We have a setting system. You can see how I'm setting, and I can set very precisely to the minute. And then to unhack the movement, there's this little push button right here. I push it, and presuming you've wound the watch enough, the watch will start operating again. Let me just wind the watch a little there. There we go. Now you can see the system works like this. You pull the crown, and then the crown basically snaps back to the case. At that point, you can make all of your adjustments, and you don't have to push the crown back in, so you don't have to essentially push the crown in and risk budging the minute hand. And then, when you push the release, the watch starts operating again, and the hand is not budged. Now the hands, as you can see, are beautifully manually cut, polished, and fired to a needle-like point. The dial is made of sterling silver. We have a power reserve indicator at center. We have an enormous proprietary balance of their own construction, which is free-sprung. The micrometric screw regulator index is there just for very fine tuning. And then you can see there's an overcoil hairspring. There's also a bridge underneath the balance with snailing and beveling, a black polished escapement, and note the use of clear sapphires across all of the pivots to give it nice steely monotone aesthetic. You can also see when you're making 1/10 as many watches as Lange each year, your engravings can be a lot more intricate and also more numerous. And if you look, whereas Lange will mechanically engrave the bridges and plates with characters, here everything. The numbers, the brackets, the parentheses, The letters, they're all freehand engraved. German silver, nickel copper zinc, with the copper giving it that golden hue. Triple solarized, not single, not double, triple solarized ratchet wheel. You can see that even the teeth of these wheels have been micro beveled, which is an extraordinary task and takes a lot of time and attention. And then the stripes are particularly broad and beautiful. The movement has a pillar-style design where the bridge floats over the base plate on pillar columns, a system that dates back to vintage marine chronometer fabrication. And you can see that the bolts on the balance are recessed to reduce the impact of aerodynamics. You can also see the screws on the movement are both polished and fired to a sort of violet-brown hue. It takes less firing to get that brown, that violet brown, and so the attention to detail here is superb. Throw it on the wrist. It's big for a dress watch, but comfortable and has a lot of daily driver character to it, as it's not the kind of thing that shouts, "Look at me." It's not gold, it's not covered with diamonds, it's not a well-known brand, but in my opinion, Moritz Grossmann, along with the Lange & Teine, the best kept secrets in watchmaking. And I would even say Moritz Grossmann is even a bit better kept as a secret than Lange & Teine, which has been discovered in recent years. These guys are like a smaller, more soulful Lange, and I adore them. Urwerk, one of the oldest independents in the business, originally established by the Baumgartner brothers and Martin Fry in 1997. Fry designs these days, and Baumgartner designs the watches. In 2019, they launched the UR-100. This is the UR-100V UltraViolet, a 2022 evolution that, in addition to its distinctive DLC titanium case, features a purple carousel and scale. You could see that it is 1:30. That's how you read the time. Now it is 1:45. One of the changes on the ultraviolet was making the numeral on the carousel a little bit more obvious and closer set to the minutes track. You have a little scale that gives you the distance the Earth rotates on its axis in 20 minutes, and another that shows you how far through space the Earth travels in 20 minutes. It has lots of lume, no shortage, as you can see, and it's quite spectacular when operating in the dark. The watch features a size that's difficult to describe, as it's 41 millimeters wide and about 50 millimeters lug to lug, but it wears a little bit more compact than that. You can see there's a little Easter egg in there. Time is on your side inside the strap, and on the reverse we have automatic winding with the Windfanger system, a little rotor with a rotor that slows down the winding to reduce wear on the Zenith Elite automatic base that powers Urwerk's unique satellite display. It's got a 48-hour power reserve, and you can see on my wrist, it doesn't look nearly as big. It wears compact. It's very easy to wear. It's one of those oddball watch shapes that's been designed for ergonomics first and foremost, and it definitely delivers on that front. This watch also features a folding clasp and a rubber strap, two things that we have not traditionally expected on Urwerk watches. All right. This thing is absolutely manic. From Girard-Perregaux, this is the 2016 46mm titanium version of the Constant Escapement LM. So the original launched in 2013 was 48mm. It won the GPHG Aiguille d'Or. It was just a little bit too large for many of us. Now we have a smaller watch that's only about 50mm lug to lug, 46 in diameter, and because it's all sapphire and titanium, it's really, really light on the wrist. I could wear this. Granted, this is definitely making a statement. This is not a watch that disappears. It's not for a bashful man, but I could wear this. With a manual winding system, you actually wind it counterclockwise. It's a bit unconventional. Twin barrels, 6 days of power reserve. We have a buckling silicon blade, so these cam wheels start to move the blade, and then the blade elastically snaps, which oscillates this lever that in turn impulses the balance, which sits on a bridge inspired by Girard-Perregaux's tourbillon with 3 golden bridges. The movement properly sized for the case. You could see a Grande Sonnerie style click up at the top, and it is beautifully decorated. And so because the cam wheels never directly impulse the balance, for 6 days you have constant amplitude, constant force to the escapement. This is a system Rolex originally attempted, gave up on without finishing the patent. The inventor, Nicolas Dehon, went to Girard-Perregaux, finished the system with them, and he recast the oscillating, buckling, constant force remontoire in silicon rather than metal, and that was the key to making it work. The watch does have a little bit of lume too. Finally, a 2010 evolution of the Jaeger-LeCoultre Duometre, the Duometre, a Quantieme Lunaire. Now this watch, 42mm in rose gold, it features a lovely sort of grained dial that has a combination of a date, age of the moon, and a moon phase, a foudroyant, center seconds, a time display, a power reserve indicator for the time and the complications, which have their own mainspring barrel, and then another for the regulator, which also has its own mainspring barrel. 2 drivetrains in one 42mm watch. The way this works is you pull the crown. Now note how it stopped the foudroyant. Now I pull it the rest of the way. A hammer falls on a hard cam. It resets like a chronograph. Now I can set the watch precisely to a reference time, not just to the second, but also to the 1/6 of seconds. Taking a look at the reverse side, you can see the movement's made of German silver like a Longa dual wing caliber 381. It's really 2 movements operating separately, with the oscillator acting as a traffic cop, alternating the flow of energy between the 2 sides of the watch, the regulator, which has its own power supply, and everything else. And that's why this watch is the only watch I've ever experienced that can do this. Guess what, guys? Hacked movement. But you know what? Because the balance has its own drivetrain and power supply, it continues to operate, so that when I restart the watch, the balance doesn't need to regain amplitude. It's already at full throttle, and so it will not lose fractions of a second on the restart. We have, once again, those Grand Sonnerie click mechanisms that you saw in the GP, but larger. You turn and wind in opposite directions. You could see Côte de Soleil across the bridges with wonderful depth and beveling. And then one of the finest finished JLC watches you can buy for less than $150,000, and frankly, probably one of the most accurate mechanical watches ever made. My Duometre chronograph certainly was that for me. We'll throw it on the wrist. It's an old friend, about 50mm, 50.4mm lug to lug, and quite comfortable. I wore my chrono in this size for 4 years. I always thought it was big, but a good ergonomic match. If you want perhaps the best chronometer ever made by Jaeger-LeCoultre, reach out to me for any of these watches. Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.